Hey, AP World. Hey, AP World History. Welcome to the live tonight. We are going to be doing amazing review race unit 9. We made it to unit 9. It's so exciting. Let me know when you get here. Drop your name in the chat so that I know that you're here. We're going to be looking at a unit 9 DBQ tonight. And let's see, I'm going to get this pulled up. This is your assignment. It is in the description below, but I'm also going to give you the link in the chat. So let me know when you get here. Drop your name in there. Hey, Coffee Chinchilla, welcome in. Welcome in. Hope everybody's having a good evening. We're going to be looking at this Unit 9 DBQ tonight and hopefully give you a little bit more practice. We have the test coming up next week. Tobena, hey, welcome in. Good to see you. So I've been looking at all of your DBQs from the last time, and not bad. They weren't bad. Hey, Sophia, you already took the test, didn't you? How did it go? Let us know if you feel good about it. So anyway, the DBQs that I've been looking at from you guys aren't too bad, but we need to practice the supports and explain seem to be what everybody's kind of struggling with, which totally understandable. That's one of the harder parts. Hey, Damien. Hey, Arnav. It was chill. Okay, Sophia. All right. I looked at the questions. There were some that were all right. Some that were a little bit harder. Some of the SAQs I felt were really hard. Yeah, I ran out of time. Yep, that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. DBQ organizer is on the link right here, Tobena. It's right here. I can drop it for you though too. Yeah, time is often the factor with that test. I feel like everybody would have a better chance if it wasn't such a limited time. Did you take it online or did you take the paper test? Just curious. All right, guys. So we're going to get started looking at the DBQ tonight, and this one is from the 2011 AP exam. I reworded the prompt, but as I was thinking about this, I think that if this were on the actual AP test, that they would probably word it like, evaluate the extent in which the Green Revolution led to consequences during the period of 1945 to the present. And then if you wanted to go after that unicorn point, you would also put in something about the causes. Paper test, yeah, hand hurting. Yeah, that paper test it's a lot. It definitely is a lot. If you're a fast typer, then the digital is really good. But if you're not a fast typer, some kids struggle with the digital too. So anyway, it doesn't really matter too much how this is worded. I had to change the wording because it was the old test from 2011. The rubric was different then. The wording was different and everything. But most of your DBQ prompts, at least all the ones that I've seen, start out with evaluate the extent in which, blah, 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 or to which. And if you look at the one that they just gave for the paper test, it was the same way. So just keep in mind that you're looking for cause and effect, similarities and differences, or change in continuities, depending on how it is worded. If it only asks for one, make sure and give the other one that goes with it. So, for example, if it's asking for similarities, then give a difference. If it's asking for causes, give an effect, okay? And then that will help you get that last point. All right, so let's look for causes and effects here. Did anybody have time to look at these documents prior to the live to see how you would group them? Anybody? If you did, go ahead and put in the chat how you would group these up. We're looking for causes and effects. Sophia, what are you and your AP World class going to do for the rest of the year? Has your teacher told you what you guys are going to be doing now that your test is done? Just curious. We're probably going to do some kind of like choice project. I haven't figured that out yet, though. So let us know if you know. Hey, Sahir, welcome in. So what we're doing right now, I'm just waiting to see if anybody has any ideas how to group these documents. If you've already looked at these documents, that way we can kind of save some time tonight and get right into the grouping and talk about supporting. This first one is the wheat yields from Mexico and India from 1950 to 2004. Next Tuesday is the review game. Yes, Arnav. And then this one is about the food surplus in relation to the population. Hey, Maylee, how's it going? Welcome in. Right now, we're just kind of looking over these documents. I gave them to my students ahead of time, and they were supposed to look at them ahead of time. But the way it's looking, I don't think anybody did. I understand. Everybody's busy. So we're just going to kind of go through the documents kind of quickly tonight because I want to focus on talking about how to use them to support your argument. That's where a lot of people are struggling. Hey, Pri, I just saw you pop up as well. So any of the documents that you need, they're all the way up in the comments. They're also down in the description below. So document 3 is from Harry Truman, and that one was about people living in poverty. And let me look at my notes on that one. Oh, okay. I see, Sophia. That's cool. So you had AP World first semester, and then you had to take the test after not having it for second semester? That's challenging. That is crazy. All right. So, yeah. So Truman was talking about how people were living in poverty. There's not enough food. It says more than half of the people of the world are living in conditions approaching misery. Their food is inadequate. They're a victim of diseases. So really bad living conditions as a result of not enough food. Document 4 talks about hunger as well and underprivileged developing countries. It's talking about near starvation. It's talking about crop yields are low. And then the Green Revolution has won a temporary success in man's war against hunger. So the Green Revolution was the answer. Yeah, that's crazy, Sophia. I didn't know that that happened like that. Document 5 is talking about farmers in India, Punjab to be exact. And it talks about like how new technology is helping them. Actually, this is not, yeah. This one's talking about how they are pioneers of the Green Revolution technology. And it says, I'm convinced we would not have made a success of it if not for these pioneers in the Green Revolution. Document 6 is talking about how the society in Mexico City is different because of the Green Revolution. People are getting rich off of it, so the money that they're making. And then document 7 is talking about the differences in how it affects rural people. So some communities are prospering, as in document 6, and some are not, as in document 7. So how would you group these documents? Did anybody come up with that? You can hold on. I'm answering a kiddo on Teams. He was asking a question. So keep in mind, you're not going to be able to write notes on your documents when you're actually taking the test because they're going to be on your computer screen like this. So what I would suggest is having some blank paper beside you. And then that way you can write your notes down as you're going through the documents. So for example, this document up here, document 1, it shows the wheat yields and it shows how as the Green Revolution is going on, the food production of wheat specifically is going up. So make yourself a little bit a note that says something about document 1 shows higher yields as the Green Revolution progresses. Okay. Then you'd go on to document 2. Document 2 is showing that the food supply and the population are pretty much the same until the Green Revolution starts. And then the food supply starts going up and we have a surplus where we didn't have before, right? So write that beside your document, that the Green Revolution causes a surplus and it helps us have more food. Sophia says, at the beginning, it was very useful to plan out my DBQ structure and write a thesis, ideas for outside evidence, etc. before I started writing. Yes, absolutely, Sophia. That's a really good plan. You want to have a plan in place, but you also want to do it as quickly as possible so you don't run out of time. So that's why I'm saying just make like little quick notes on your scrap paper right beside your computer so that you have that plan in place later. And then when I look at this one, I'm seeing that the main idea is that like a lot of people are living in misery. There's not enough food. So put that beside document, well, write on your paper, document 3, and then put that information. Anything that you can glean from those documents the first time that you read through it is good to write down. Tabena says document 1, 2, and 4 show positive effects of the revolution. Okay. So we've got 1 and 2. Those are our 2 graphs. And 4 show positive effects. What is the positive effect specifically? Because remember, in your thesis, you don't want to just say the Green Revolution was a positive effect. You want to specify what that was. So like be specific. Anybody else see any groups forming? We said that this one talks about hunger and not having enough food. Could we put that with anything else? This would definitely be a negative effect, right? Of not having enough food. What about grouping it with document 4 that talks about the negative effects of the developing countries and how the land is tired, things are depleted, except that Tabena was going to use this one for a positive. So if you're going to use that one for a negative, you don't want to also use it for a positive. So I would suggest maybe putting document 3 and 4 together, like Coffee Chinchilla says, and saying that it's a negative effect. But was the hunger an effect of the Green Revolution, or is it a cause of the Green Revolution? What do you guys think? Yeah, Arnav, 1 and 2 show the food supply increases as a result of the Green Revolution. So that would definitely be a positive effect. But 3 and 4, if we put those together and we talk about hunger prior to, it would be a cause. Yeah, absolutely. So you could say that this one is a cause, that there wasn't enough food and they had to figure out how they were going to fix that problem. And what I would do on your piece of paper then is just start grouping them up. You know, draw stars beside the ones that go together. So 3 and 4, or circle those, and then draw like a heart beside 1 and 2, however you're going to group them up. Definitely, hunger would be a cause. Tabena says at the end of document 4, it states that the Green Revolution had a temporary success against hunger. That's true. So you could use that document in that way. The point is you can use these documents however you want to use them, right? So like, let's say that you want to put this with document 1 and 2. Document 1 and 2. You're not wrong, Tabena. Absolutely not wrong, because you could absolutely use this to prove that positivity. I'm just saying that you could also group it with 3 and 4 and use the first 2 paragraphs for the negative, okay? Now, here's the thing. You only have to use each document once correctly, and you don't have to use it twice. So let's say that you want to write yours and you want to put document 4 with 1 and 2. Absolutely acceptable. You can do that. And then document 3 could just be a standalone and saying that this was the cause. Okay, do you understand? So when you would use document 4 with documents 1 and 2, you would just use that last paragraph and you wouldn't talk about the first 2 paragraphs. That'd be absolutely acceptable. All right, and then we still need to use documents 5, 6, and 7. Is there any way that those could group together? Documents 5, 6, and 7. Could we maybe group any of those with document 3? If we did it how Tabena was doing it with documents 1 and 2 and 4 together? What do you guys think? This is the part where you want to go as quickly as possible, but yet sometimes it's hard to make those connections. And remember, you can have standalone documents. They don't have to all be grouped together. Okay, so group 5, 1, and 2 could go together, or document 5, 1, and 2. Sure. You could maybe say that the effect of new technology from the Green Revolution produced higher yields. That would be good. Then if you do that, Tabena, it might benefit you to put document 4 with document 3. I guess it really doesn't matter either way, because you can prove that the cause was not enough food just by using document 3. You wouldn't necessarily need document 4. And then would 6 and 7 go together? Can you think of a way to group them? Financial effects of the Green Revolution? Sure. What were the financial effects? Were they the same in all communities? Arnaud says document 7 can go both ways. It states the positive effects that have occurred as a result of technology in the Green Revolution, but it also states the negative effects and how it affected women. Sure. Could we maybe say that financially some of the communities prospered, but in some communities prospered, but some had more social differences defined. Like in document 7, you could talk about how it shows the disparities in the different class structures. So you could, Coffee, if you want to, you could just say they have financial effects and then go into that within your paragraph and kind of be a little bit more precise and talk about how in document 6, it's giving the communities prosperity and it's helping them thrive. But in the other ones, it's showing these social disparities, maybe something like that. Okay, so now that you have your groups, what you're going to do is write your thesis. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to think about your thesis. So, and group them 1, 2, and I think it was 5 is how you guys said 1, 2, and 5. You could put 4 with 1, 2, and 5 if you want, or you can group 3 and 4 together and 6 and 7 together. However you want to do it. Group them up, write your thesis, drop it in the chat when you get done. I should play some music. Do, 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 like the Jeopardy music. All right, I'll be quiet. And if you're listening and you want to post it on Teams, you can do that as well. Don't forget your extent language. Don't forget extent language. And just do your best. There's no judgment here. We're all still practicing. Okay, drop it in the chat when you get that thesis done. Just put your 3 groups together. Okay, so I have one on Teams. I'll read it to you. It says, the Green Revolution during the period of 1945 to the present had causes which include the extreme lack of food and effects which included the large increase in food production and financial disparity between the people of different roles in the society. That one sounds good. So definitely, you got your cause, you got your effects in there, and you got some extent language. That looks good. Let's look at Tabena's. Tabena says, the Green Revolution significantly caused people to starve. Awesome. However, well, not awesome. The idea of that is not awesome, right? But the wording is great. However, it also drastically increased the food supply during the revolution. It also notably changed the financial situations of anyone, including the rich and the poor. That's good. The only thing I would suggest is instead of the word changed, use the word affected. It notably affected, because the only reason I say that is because of the change in continuity prompt. They might say, oh, is he trying to like show change instead of effects? And that's not what you're trying to do. You want to do effects. So that's the only suggestion I would have. Otherwise, that one's beautiful. Bye, Sophia. You're welcome. Thanks for stopping by and letting us know how it went. I'm glad it went well. Talk to you later. Okay, so Arnam says, despite the causes of the Green Revolution, such as hunger and high-yielding variety of seeds, the Green Revolution had both positive and negative consequences. Despite the causes, such as hunger and high-yielding variety of seeds. Okay, so the only problem that we have with this one is that, are you going to have a group talking about high yield variety of seeds? And also, what specifically are your positive and negative consequences? So the Green Revolution had both positive, let's see. The Green Revolution had the positive consequences of da-da-da and negative consequence of da-da-da-da-da. So the positive effects were the increase in the food supply and financially prospered some regions. However, the negative consequences of the Green Revolution were restricting women. Okay, so the only problem with this one, sorry to pick on you, Arnab, is that you're only going to have one paragraph for the financially prospered and the restricting women, because those documents go together. So you want to have some kind of topic that is an umbrella over all of them. And let me look at this document. I'm pretty sure finances would work for that one too, because it's going to affect the women's finances. Let's look. Yeah, because it does talk about female labor and forcing women to work as agricultural laborers and unpaid female labor, and women's wage earnings are going to be limited once things start to become mechanical. So what you could just say is, how did everybody else word it? Okay, the financial disparity between the people of different roles in society. So it's going to greatly affect the financial, you could say it would increase the financial disparity between people of different roles in society. It's going to like increase that gap. So what you want to do when you're only going to have those two documents in one group, you have to somehow get them under an umbrella of the effect or the cause. Does that make sense? Because otherwise your thesis makes it sound like you're going to have more paragraphs than what you actually are. But not bad. Okay, so let's say that we're going to start our first paragraph and we're going to talk about our cause, which is that people were starving. And I believe you guys put that with 3 and 4. So let's look at documents 3 and 4. We'll look at it to Benna when we get to that. So we're in documents 3. Now, you guys do really good with describing the main idea of the document, so I'm going to skip that one tonight. Describing, you're just telling me what it is. Okay. Now, we have to pull something from this document that will prove or support that the cause of the Green Revolution is that people didn't have enough food. Okay? So what you're going to do is pull something from this document and put it into your own words. For example, he says more than half the people of the world are living in conditions approaching misery. Their food is inadequate. They're victims of diseases. Their economic life is primitive and stagnant, and their poverty is a handicap and a threat both to them and more prosperous areas. So already we can use that part, and you can put it into your own words. So you could say, according to document 3, over half of the world is in very bad living conditions where they don't have enough food. So I just took this first part and I put it in my own words. Okay. And then also according to the document, President Truman says, I believe that we should make available to peace-loving people the benefits of our store of technical knowledge in order to help them realize their aspirations in a better life. So he wants to help them with technology. Our aim should be to help the free people of the world through their own efforts to produce more food. So he wants them to produce more food. Okay, so you can say in this document, President Harry Truman supports helping the free people of the world to be able to solve this problem of poverty through the Green Revolution. Those two sentences would be pulling stuff from that document that support that this is a cause, that the starvation is a cause. Okay? So you want to have a sentence to describe it. To describe this, I would just say that according to the President of the United States, there are a lot of people in the world that don't have enough food. And then I would go on to say because that's kind of like support. If I'm going to describe that, then I would go on to say that according to document 3, and then I'd use this part, they don't have a very good form of income. They're living in poverty, and this poverty is keeping them from being prosperous. Something like that, okay? So whatever you use to describe, pull something else to support, and then say how that connects to your cause. Well, this is obviously a cause of the Green Revolution because he's saying at the bottom that he wants to give them technology to help them be able to be prosperous, okay? So if we were to write that out, I'm going to write it out over here so that you can see how it looks. if this is your cause paragraph, I said we were going to skip the describes, but it's kind of hard to do that and do the support. So we would say document 3. Document 3 is a speech from President Truman, and he he says that that more than half the world is living in bad conditions due to the fact that they don't have enough food. And then you're going to pull something from the document to support that this is a cause. So you would say that according to document 3, their being poor is keeping them from being prosperous or having a happy life. Now we have to tie this to the cause. So you could say something like, he is promoting that the United States give technical knowledge or give access to technology to these people in order to promote food growth and give them a better economy. Or he is requesting. Now that would be your describes part would be right here. And this is going to be your supports part. So what is often happening on the DBQs that I've been reading is that you get the describe part, but you don't add anything for the supports part. The support is taking that document to the next level and really using it to make your argument, okay? Now, the other thing that you need to do is explain the document. So purpose, audience, point of view, now, this one's kind of interesting. This document is. You could also probably do outside evidence on it because notice who he wants to help. What's going on at this time frame in 1949? Has World War II ended? And what happens after World War II? Anybody know? Cold War. Yes. So, Arnav, you're right. World War II ended in 1945. Cold War starts shortly after, right? U.S. is emerging as a superpower. So notice how he writes this. He says, I believe that we should make available to peace-loving people the benefit of our store of technical knowledge in order to help them realize their aspirations of a better life. Our aim should be to help free people of the world. Is he wanting to help communist countries? No. And why not? Because the Cold War is going on and he's trying to keep communists from spreading. He's the enemy of communism. So this one would be a good one for historical context because we could say he only wants to support the free people of the world and the democratic countries because this is during the Cold War and he doesn't support communism. That could be your historical context. Usually, historical context of a document is really hard, but in this case, it's pretty easy because he's telling you in the document that he's not going to help the communists. So you can say historical context of this document is that it is written during the Cold War, which is why the president is only offering his help to the free people of the world or the democratic countries. So you could say to the democratic countries. That would be putting it in your own words. At this time, the U.S. is enemies with the communist countries. And that is why he isn't offering to help them. So for historical context, you have to say what's going on when the document is written and why that's important to the point of the document, which is what we said. This part is what's going on. This part is why it's important. Okay? Now, the first time I'm reading that document, if I see that and it jumps out to me on my paper where I'm writing my notes, I'm going to put historical context right beside that. That way I remember that for later. Yeah, you could also say because he supports a capitalist government. True, or no, that would work too. All right, now, oops. Document 4, if we put these together and we use document 4, then we could use these two paragraphs right here to show part of the cause, right? So you could say that, like, according to document 4, developing countries were also having a problem because there was a food shortage due to overuse of the land. That's coming from that very first part. That would be your description. And then you would say, because of this overuse, the crop yields were very low, people were starving, and they needed something almost like a miracle to be able to help them in the future. And we're proving that the starvation was the cause. So you could also put in there that you could say, document 4 speaks to the fact that the Green Revolution was such a success that it was this miracle that they needed, and they were able to have enough food, something like that. So you could use that last part to show cause. Even though that last part is an effect, it's the effect of that cause that we're talking about in that paragraph. All right, with document 1, 2, and 5, that one is new technology produces higher yields. What I want you to do is write the describes and supports for document 1, document 2, and 5, and try to write your explains. And I will be right back. Put it in the chat when you get it finished. Document 1, 2, and 5. Okay. Anybody ready? Document 1, 2, and 5. How would you write those? Let's start with document 1 first. Drop in the chat how you would describe, support, and explain document 1. Let's do describes first. How would you describe document 1? So describes, I have somebody said the first document shows the increase in yields of wheat as the Green Revolution progresses. That's perfect. That's a good description. Tabena says, according to document 1, the wheat yields increased both in Mexico and India due to the revolution. Perfect. Great description. Now, pull something that supports the idea that new technology resulted to higher yields. Could you say something along those lines? Probably what would be best to do is start with document 5 to explain that, and then you could go into document 1 and 2 as proof of that new technology. Does that make sense? So sometimes you don't want to talk about the documents in order of number. Sometimes you would talk about it in order of what makes sense, and that makes sense a little bit more so. I didn't think of that when I was telling you to write it. So if we were going to write document 5 first, you would say something like, according to document 5, the new technology that came from India made the Green Revolution possible. And then, let's see, you could say, to pull something to support it. This new technology was developed by the farmers in India, and some of it was produced because of competition and the drive to want to create this new technology or something like that, right? So, trying to read this one too. So then if you're doing that, then what I would do is go to the graphs, and you could say what Tabena says, document 1 is demonstrates the wheat yields increased both in Mexico and India due to revolution, and pull something that supports that. And you could say, this document shows how the Green Revolution resulted in the increase of agricultural productivity by, and then pull something from the chart. For example, by showing the increase going from 1,500 kilograms in 1960 to around 5,000 kilograms by the mid-2000s, or by 2005, something like that. To support, when you have a graph, you want to pull something off the graph and use that as evidence. Okay, so make sure that you're always pulling something off the graph, or if you have a picture, you're pulling something from the picture. You're connecting that when you're supporting it, okay? So, for example, on this one that I got on Teams, to support, it says The document supports the topic as it shows how the Green Revolution resulted in an increase in agricultural productivity, and this graph shows an increase in production of wheat. That's true, it does, but pull something specifically off of here that shows that and proves it, right? So instead of just saying it shows an increase in wheat production, say the specifics. Does that make sense? Then you'd go to this graph and you'd say, also document 2 is a graph from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and it shows how food supply was at a surplus compared to the population during the Green Revolution. For example, from 1953 to the mid-2000s, the population increased, but the food supply was way above that. And you can say something about, how much above that. You'd have to look at the map there. Let's see. So 3 food supply index. So you could say the food supply index was around 3 in 1950, and it increased to 8 or 9 by the mid-2000s, right? You're showing information from that graph. Let's see what Arnav has. Document number 1 is a graph that shows the increasing number of wheat yields during the Green Revolution in Mexico and India. That's great for the description. That works. According to document 1, India has fewer wheat yields per kilogram than Mexico in the year of 1970. The purpose of this graph was to show how the Green Revolution positively affected these countries. Okay, so not too bad, except for India has fewer wheat yields per kilogram than Mexico in 1970s. How does that prove that the effect was higher yields? You want to pull something from this graph that proves what you're arguing, okay? So what you said is true, but does it prove what you're arguing? That's the problem with it. Not very well, right? That's going to probably be like if you were arguing that India had better yields than Mexico. Or no, that Mexico had better yields than India. I was reading the wrong line, okay? So instead of saying that, Arnav, you could say something like both Mexico and India increased their yields during the Green Revolution. For example, from the 2,500 kilograms that India was producing in 1965, it increased to around 4,000 milligrams by 2005, actually 5,000 milligrams by 2005. And Mexico was around 500 kilograms in 1965, and it increased to around 2,500 milligrams by 1960, or by 2005. So you're pulling those numbers to prove that, okay? Do you see the difference? And then the purpose of this graph was to show how the Green Revolution positively affected these countries. Great. But now you have to say, well, why is that important? Does that mean that this is factual? Could it be wrong information? We don't really know. We don't have a lot to go on, right? But we do have the fact that it's from the United Nations. So we could maybe do something along the lines of that. Maybe say, because it's from the United Nations, it's a reliable source or something like that. You have to say why it's important that you know that that's the purpose. Okay. And then let's see. Oh, I see. You've got it right here. It just cut your comment. So this affects how the graph was depicted, as the graph mostly shows the growth of productivity instead of negative decline. That's true, but productivity was what was happening, right? It wasn't negatively declining. I don't know. I would stem away from explaining graphs because you just don't have a lot of stuff to go on. You know, you can't. Could we do point of view? Maybe, but that would be kind of hard. Historical context, you know, what's going on in 2005 that's affecting this chart? I don't know. That one might pass for a point for purpose, Arnav. It really just depends on what they're looking for. But both the graphs are going to be kind of hard to do purpose because you just don't really have a lot to go on. You could possibly do audience. Yeah. My friend here on Teams is saying maybe audience. You could possibly do audience. I mean, it's from the United Nations, so they're probably using it in the United Nations in some way to talk to the other. But then you have to say, like, how does knowing that affect the document? That's the problem that's hard, right? That's the one that you got to know the information about. Hey, Fardeen, welcome in. We're working on these documents. We're cracking away. All right, so let's see. I'm not sure. Okay, I think on Teams, that second comment is for document 2. I don't know because I'm thinking it is. So if we're looking at document 2, how does this one support high yield, that technology gave high yield? You could say because it shows an increase in food supply relative to population. That would be your description. This particular graph shows an increase. Hold on, that's the wrong one. I think I think that one was for the other graph. So if this one, if we're supporting, okay, that's what I thought, Trashri. Okay. So if we're supporting the new technology being an effect, then we have to say something along the lines from this graph, right? So you could say something like from 1800 to the 1950s, the food supply and the population stayed somewhat the same. And you could even talk about how it dips below the population before the Green Revolution, and then, you know, causes the fact that we need more food because people were starving, and the effect of that is the surplus. So you could even really use this one with the cause one if you wanted to. But anyway, we're going to keep it with this group because I don't want to confuse you guys even more. So if you're using it with the effect, then you would say around the 1960s when technology really started to ramp up, this is when we're going to have more surplus of food in relation to the population. For example, in 1965, there was a food supply index of 3, and by the mid-2000s, it is projected, by about 2020, it was projected to be an index of 8 and 9. Now notice that this has to be projections, right? Because this was done in 2005, and it's telling us all the way up to 2050. So this isn't, 2005 is about right here. So this is where they would be at in 2005, and then all the rest of this would be projection. And then, once again, could we do purpose? Yeah, I mean, you could probably do purpose on this one, but then you have to say, like, how it affects the document. So, maybe purpose was to show that the Green Revolution is successful. So this could possibly maybe be exaggeration, but we don't know that for sure. So I would try to mostly do your explains on things that you have a lot more information to go on. Unless you have time, then write it and see what happens. All right, and then we have document 6 and 7, which is the effect on society. And this one's proving that ones in Mexico City are more prosperous, right? So you'd say your topic sentence something like, another effect of the Green Revolution was the huge financial disparity among communities of the world. And then you would say, document 6 discusses the wealthy in Mexico City because of the Green Revolution. And then you'd pull something from that. So you could say, according to the document, it describes houses and really big houses, a lot of money for the Mexican families who live in Mexico City. On the flip side of that, there were some societies that didn't have it very good because of the Green Revolution. And then you can go to document 7. You'd say in document 7, the Green Revolution affects the people because only the very top tier of people are getting that money, and the wage earners aren't making very much money. You could talk about the women or whatever you want to pull from that document to support that. So HIP is 3 documents, but if you're able to apply it to the graphs, then yes, absolutely. You can write it to more than 3. Actually, I tell you guys, if you have time, HIP each one of the documents so that you have a lot of extras. You're probably not going to have that much time though. So try to do at least 4. That way you have an extra. But the thing that you guys are missing with the HIP/explain, because it's the same thing, is that last part of saying like why it's important in relation to the document. You guys do really good at saying like, the purpose of this document is it's a newsletter and it's getting information out to the people about the Green Revolution. It's great. But you're not going to get the full point for that because you have to say how that's important in the relation to the document. Is the information possibly skewed? Could the information, if it's like a letter to the king, clearly you're going to talk to a king differently than you would talk to like your buddy. So what does that tell us about the wording? You have to somehow connect it to the document. Okay. So yeah, if you have time, do it on all of them. That's great. This one here is Miss Dula. She's a wife of a Mexican agricultural official. Okay. So she's elite. That could work for point of view. And she's talking to a UN official. So, oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. So if we were going to do point of view, you would say, who is this woman? She's the wife of an agricultural official. What does she believe? She believes that that Mexico City is very wealthy and rich. Why does she believe this? Well, she's a member of the upper class, right? And she is rich herself. When she's looking around and seeing all the money that these farmers are making, she's probably pretty happy about it because she's one of the people that is making this money. Do you think she would have the same attitude if she was one of the poor people and looking around and seeing all this wealth? Probably not. They'd probably be upset that the money is not trickling down to them. So when you're doing point of view, you need to point that out and you need to say she believes this because she's a member of the elite and she's benefiting off of the Green Revolution. So of course she's going to talk good about it. Does that make sense? This one might be a little bit hard to do. You can maybe do audience or purpose, but once again, like what's the FAO newsletter? Who's it to? We don't really know. You could maybe say like the purpose was to inform. So hopefully it's a little bit more reliable. They might give you points for that. Just kind of depends on what they're looking for. This guy is India's Minister of Food and Agriculture, and he's talking about this in an interview. Now, this one's interesting, right? Because he says that what they did in India was pioneering the Green Revolution, and if not for them, it wouldn't have been successful. Why is he saying that? He's Indian, right? So his point of view is a little bit different. There might be somebody in the United States that says, oh, wait a minute, we helped with that too, and we produce blah, 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 right? They're going to have a different point of view. This guy, though, has the point of view that India made it happen because he's Indian. So you could say, this is from India's food minister. What does he believe? He believes that the Green Revolution was a success because of the people in India making it happen. Why does he believe that? Because he himself is Indian, and he, let's see, was he there to witness it? He may have been involved in it, but he also has a skewed point of view because he is Indian, and he, of course, would think that they are responsible for its success. Okay, so we got somebody that wrote an intended audience for this one. Let's see what it says. Intended audience for document 7 includes the members of the Food and Agriculture Organization. This affects the document as it shows a comparison between two nations which are in different parts of the world. Furthermore, Mexico and India are members of the UN. I don't really think this would work, but just checking to be completely sure. So you could say that the audience, well, would it be the UN? I don't know that it would be the UN. I don't know. I think that one's just too hard. We don't really have enough information to go by, because like who is the FAO and who are they trying to inform? It definitely would be, the purpose would be to inform. The audience could be the United States, could be Mexico, could be the UN. We just don't really know. Oh, you're doing document 1? Well, give me the document numbers, Goober. I'm just teasing you. I thought you were talking about this one. Let's see, document 1. Document 1, the audience would definitely be possibly the UN. It could be that the UN is putting this out there, though, too, for other countries. I don't know. I still think that one's pretty hard to do anything for, but you could say that maybe they're trying to show this comparison and show, I think the purpose would probably be the easiest one for this one. And the purpose would be showing the success of the Green Revolution and using the data to prove that or something. I'm glad you're laughing. That's funny. Okay, so a couple of takeaways that you need to remember. The describing, you're just saying briefly what the main idea is. Supporting, you want to make sure and connect that to the document in some way. Oftentimes, you guys are just giving me like an overview again, or like more, like general information. You want to make sure and be very specific that that document connects to whatever you're arguing. That's why I tell you all to write that topic sentence, like the cause is blah, 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 or the effect is blah, blah, blah. That way, you know what you are trying to argue, and you can remind yourself with that, okay? So whatever you're arguing is your group. And our groups this time was that the cause was that they didn't have enough food. They were starving. So you're trying to prove that from the document. When you support, you have to pull something from the document that proves that was a cause, okay? And then your explain part, you have 4 options with that. You don't have to do any certain ones. Like there's no criteria that says, oh, you have to do at least one point of view or whatever. That's not the case. Do what's easiest with the documents. So for example, like this one, point of view is easy because we know this guy's president. We know that he is democratic and that he's a capitalist and he's against communism. So of course, his point of view is going to be that he doesn't want to help the communists. He only wants to help the democratic countries. And why is that? Because he's against communism. Now, you can use that for point of view, or you could use it for context, like how we wrote it originally. But you can't use it for both and double dip. All right. If that's the way that it is, then just use it for one or the other. You're not using it for both. You could also probably do purpose in this. This is his inaugural address. What is his inaugural address? That's the speech of the president gives the United States. So the purpose is to let them know what's going on in the world. And maybe that's why he's trying to be positive as well as tell the negatives here. Who's the audience? The audience is the United States. Okay. But it's not enough just saying that. You have to go into why that's important in relation to the document. And if you don't know, then do it with a different document. Will the DBQ next week on the exam be on a specific unit, or can it be any unit? It can be any unit from, what were the dates again? I got it written down. I think it's from unit 3 through 9. So basically it doesn't narrow it down very much for you all. The one that was on the written exam was about the Mexican Revolution. So it won't be about the Mexican Revolution. I can tell you that because I've already tested on that. So units 3 through 9, not the Mexican Revolution. That's about as narrow as I can get it for you, Arnav. The nice thing is, yes, 3 through 9. Okay, 1450 to 2011 or 2001. So unit 3 starts with 1450. The good thing is that I can tell you about the DBQ. I feel like the DBQ is easier than the LEQ because at least with the DBQ, you have the documents to go on. So let's say that you don't know very much about the Green Revolution. You can kind of learn about it by reading these documents, right? So that's the part that's really good about the DBQ. You've got somewhat of a chance of getting a couple points. And then don't forget those easy points, okay? So let's say that you've got half of this written. You're not done with the supports yet for all the documents. You haven't done like all the documents yet, but you only have 10 minutes left. Stop writing about the documents and start writing your outside evidence because the outside evidence is worth 1 whole point. So even if you haven't finished the whole thing, you can still at least get that 1 point. So outside evidence for this one, you could talk about anything else that you know in regards to the Green Revolution. You could maybe connect it even more to the Cold War and go more in depth about that. However you want to do it, you could talk about the high yield seeds that you were talking about earlier. But make sure you get that outside evidence point. Don't forget that one because it's easy to get. You just have to tie it in with the prompt. Don't forget that part. What would be a good context for this DBQ? That's a good question. Let's see. So the Green Revolution starts in like 1950s. What I would suggest is doing like context, like back it up to World War II, and World War II is ending. And now there's going to be this shift of powers between Europe being devastated, not having the power anymore, and now the U.S. and the Soviet Union are going head to head. But because of World War II, there are all of these countries who are devastated from that war, and they have to try to come back from that. So you could talk about that, and then you could say, in the midst of the Cold War starting, there was an issue of not enough food, and then go into your thesis. Okay. So most important thing that you can do for yourself at this point is just practicing pulling things from the document to support it. Remember that you're going to have at least 2 or 3 sentences from each document in that part. The first sentence would be describe, and then like 1 to 2 sentences for support. If you can pull 2 things from that document to prove your argument, that's great. That gives you a strong argument. You're welcome, Tabana, no problem. Okay, so always write them the same way too, so that you don't forget. Context, thesis, first body paragraph. Describe, support, explain. Describe, support, explain. And then if you're running out of time, make sure you get that outside evidence in there because that's an easy point to get. The only thing you have to remember with the outside evidence is it has to connect somehow. So don't just say the Cold War, blah, 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 and never connect it to the Green Revolution. Somehow connect it to the Green Revolution, okay? Or if there was something else that you found out about when you were researching the Green Revolution, use that as your outside evidence. All right, y'all. So what I'm going to do is get out of here and go relax for the rest of the night. If you have any other questions, just please don't hesitate to ask. If you want to finish writing this and send it to me on Teams or via email, I'll check it over and make sure that you're getting the supports part right. But I'm hoping that was a little bit clearer from what we talked about tonight. And then also your last Dbq that I've been grading. If you want to stop by office hours, I'll look at that one with you and show you some stuff. There was a couple of you I think I messaged about some of those, some of the issues in there. But regardless, just take a deep breath. And there's some practice Dbqs on your app. Don't forget to take that. There's also an extra practice one in AP Classroom. There's practice multiple choice and practice SAQ. So if you have time this weekend and you want to bust those out, that would be a good idea just to practice some more. What's great about the AP Classroom is it gives you some guidelines that you can self-grade yourself. If you want me to look at them too, make sure and let me know because I'm super busy with grading, so I don't know that I'll remember to get back in there and check. Okay? All right, you all have a great evening, and if you're A-Day, I will see you tomorrow. And if not, have an awesome weekend. Stop by office hours if you need anything. See you later.